welcome back to our live stream. As mentioned previously, my name is Kiana Eves. I'm the Communications Coordinator for the Calfee Community and Cultural Center. Joined with us this evening, we have Miss Colette Hash and Miss Jennifer Henderson. All right, thank you guys both for agreeing to do the interview. Jennifer, would you like to do your introduction?
Hi, I am a junior at Hidden Valley High School, and I am the newest member of the communication committees, and I'm happy to be here today.
All righty, Ms. Hash.
Hi, I'm Colette Hash. I am a member of Calfee board. I'm the vice president, and I am excited about this Calfee project. And Miss Kiana Eves, she gets us into all sorts of things.
I'm certainly excited to have you on the project. I know from working with you for the limited time that I have, you always have a lot of awesome ideas and you really bring a unique perspective to the Calfee project. So I'm very appreciative that you're involved in the project. I would say so myself. Speaking of some of that unique perspective, that leads me into our first question of the evening. Current and past occupation. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got involved with this project?
Well, I am a retired office manager for the public defender office. I worked there for over 20 years. And because of that, I have a lot of experience with working with all types of people. And so that's pretty awesome. So then 8 years ago, when I retired, I started working for our church, which is Jubilee Christian Center, full time. So now my hands are tied with that. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing Calfee project things.
Yeah, you're a woman of many trades. So that leads me into my next question. I did a little bit of research in preparation of our interview, and I noticed that your mother has been identified as a civil rights icon and a legacy member. And I was hoping you would be willing to share a little bit about that for the next generation. For Jennifer especially, I'm sure she'd find this very interesting.
Well, actually, it was my mom and dad to begin with. My dad, the last 10 to 12 years of his life, he experienced dementia. And so he wasn't out there in the public as much. But I can't remember when segregation ended. And my dad decided that my family would do something to always make a difference. My parents always wanted to make a difference. I can remember going to kindergarten, and I was the only Black there, only because they had told my dad that there were going to be no Blacks at that school. So every day he drove me to Blacksburg to go to school because he was determined that he was going to break those barriers, which is pretty awesome. But my mom and dad have done a lot of work down through the years. It's pretty amazing. My dad also used to sell and build homes for low-income families. And he actually did that before there was, Housing for Humanity, whatever they call, I forget their exact name now, but he did that. And in 1971, he actually received a national award. And we had dinner at the Kennedy Center with President Nixon. Maria Shriver was the MC. And so it's pretty awesome. So the last few years of my life, of my parents' life, my mother did all sorts of things. The mayor of Christiansburg said that she could sit down at her kitchen table and do much more than any committee could ever do. She had a voice of influence. She was only about 5'6", weighed about 110 pounds, but she carried a big stick. I used to tell people when my parents walked into the room, something was going to change. If it wasn't right, or it was going to change for the better. And so then my mom, she has been to the White House. She has been invited by the president to entertain foreign leaders that come, from overseas. She has done many projects in Christiansburg. Schaefer was one of her big projects that she loved to work with, which was her church. And she just knew that wherever she went, that she wanted to make a difference. She was about spreading the love rather than hate. And she knew that she could get a lot more done if she did. Now, if she needed to come in and have a strong voice, she did exactly that. So if you get an opportunity, my mother's bust is in Christiansburg at the Government Center. It's quite amazing because I think they did as much paperwork to make for sure everybody couldn't have a bus in the government center as it was to do all the paperwork to get her in the government center. But that was pretty exciting. I can remember Governor Wilder. He was a great friend of my parents, coming to my parents' home, just as if he was just the neighbor next door. You know, I grew up around all of that. And so I'm very thankful that my parents made for sure that I was not brought up in an environment where I was isolated, so I didn't know how to work with people. In order to get things done, you've got to know how to work with people. And Nick Rush, when he was running for House of Representatives, he came to my parents because someone had told him, if you want to win an election, you need to talk to the Hairstons. And my mother said this to him. She said, one of the greatest lessons you can ever learn is that you need friends on both sides of the aisle. And I think anytime we do anything, that's what we need to remember. So she was a pretty awesome lady. She did great, great things. Great things.
She sounds like an awesome lady, and I see a lot of her attributes reflected in some of the work that you've done. Speaking of which, would you mind elaborating on some of the community-based activities that you've personally participated in?
Well, we do a lot of different things with our church. We have a mentoring program for young men, which is something that we really desire, because if we can build our men, we can build our society. There'll be better husbands, better fathers, just a better individual altogether. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of feeding at our church to accommodate those who do without. We do community raising functions. We provide supplies for mothers that are in need. It was pretty awesome, all of the things we got to do during the most difficult time of COVID. We went to Christiansburg, Radford, Pulaski, and at our church, and gave away so many items. It was unreal. We do a lot with women who are pregnant and they need supplies for their life. We love to have our community baby shower. They come in and we give them enough supplies for 3 months. And what is awesome about it is when they come into a very beautiful place. They're treated like royalty. They're given a wonderful lunch, because some people are by themselves, and just to know that somebody cares, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. I was yesterday, Roanoke had Roanoke Giving Day for nonprofits. And of course, last year, 2020, nonprofits had a huge hit. And I was so happy that we were able as a church to give the Roanoke Rescue Mission, because that's a big thing that's in our heart. We have a lot of homeless people, and those who don't believe it, sometimes you should come and follow us, or come and stand at our door and you'll see people that are homeless. Last year, we actually had 2 individuals come and live behind our church without us knowing about it, because they had no place to live. And that's just disheartening to me. That we don't have a place in our area. In the NRB, why should we have to go all the way to Roanoke? We should have a place here, which is something that my husband really wants to take on, that endeavor to be able to do that, because our society needs us. I know this is not a Christian interview, but is a basis of a lot of our life. And we are the picture of the invisible God. And if we don't show people how God really is and how much he loves them, they'll never turn to him.
You touched on so many great things that you all are involved on with the community. And I will say that outside of the Calvary Project, I know that I'm personally happy to have you and Pastor Hash here. I don't know what we would do without you. Just for some of our viewers that have joined us this evening, I'm sure a lot of them have questions in terms of dates for the community baby showers specifically, especially in honor of Women's Month. I was curious, when do you typically do that community baby shower? Is it typically in the spring, summer, or are we not doing it this year because of COVID?
Well, we haven't decided how we're going to be able to do it. I think what we're going to do is we usually have signups for people anyway, is for them to be able to sign up and still come in and pick up the items. We usually do it the month of May, because it's Mother's Day is in that month. And so it's just something to help back up for ladies. And we even had fathers to come along with some of the ladies that came, because I mean, they're very much a part of their family's life. And that's one thing that we really try to work towards, and that is to build the family, because it's a strong unit that we need to refocus on as a community, as a country, and that is the family. It's very important. But usually we will have information out on Facebook. We'll have it out on our sign out front for people to come. You don't have to be any particular race. You don't have to have any kind of particular economical status. You just come if you're in need, and we want to be able to bless you.
Do you hear that, folks? So you definitely need to check them out on their Facebook page. The details to that will be linked down below at the end of the interview session for all of you ladies that are interested in participating, and to all of you gentlemen that are interested in doing some of the gender-based activities that they have designed for you, or the unisex activities that they have designed for you. So it sounds like you're a woman of many trades. It sounds like you got a lot going on. So what do you do to help you relax? I'm sure our working professional women would love to hear you talk about that. What hobbies do you enjoy?
One of my most favorite things to do is to watch Andy Griffith, because when I watch Andy Griffith, I get to tell everybody. I used to tell our sons when they were at home, during Andy Griffith, I make no decisions. That means I don't know what's going to be for dinner. I don't know where we're going for the afternoon, because Andy Griffith gave me 30 minutes of free time to laugh, you know, because they always have something to laugh about. They always have a life lesson in there. And so that's pretty awesome. I love to play miniature golf. I consider myself the champion of the family. Everybody always tries to beat me. And we're very competitive. So we always are out there, you know, we may have our summertime lemonade out there, but when we get ready to hit that first golf ball, we're like, okay, competition is on for sure. So that's it. We have a good time with that though. And then we like to go, I was telling somebody, I said, this sounds kind of old, but it's really not. One of my husband and my favorite thing to do, we go to the mall and we sit in those, what do they call them? The machines that massage you. And we do 15 minutes in those machines. And we'll usually get us a coffee from the little coffee shop that's right there. And we think that's one of the best things. We're like, hey, you want to go to the mall and sit in our favorite chairs? So I'm really hoping one of these days soon I'll have one of my own. But so that's what I do. I have a couple of ladies that we can go out to eat with and just chill. I've learned that you got to be able to identify with yourself, love yourself, because nobody else will love you the way that you love yourself, and you have to learn to take care of yourself. And so I found out one time, I said, if I can go to a restaurant and eat by myself and not feel out of place, I have become comfortable with myself. And that's a great thing, because a lot of people, if they don't have someone to eat with, or if they don't have someone to do something with, they're just like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to make it today. I'm telling you, when you can become so self-reliant on yourself and understand who you are, anything you do, you can accomplish it. So that's kind of what we do to relax. We do watch movies, you know, a good comedy movie is a good thing. So.
That sounds like an awesome evening. I don't think that sounds old at all. I wish I could go sit at a massage chair and go get me a nice coffee on a good evening like today. The weather's awesome.
Yes.
So
yes, it is.
Earlier, so bringing it back to the beginning of the conversation when you were talking about some of your experiences with segregation and with your mother and your father, I was curious, is that the primary reason that motivated you to become involved in the project, or was there something else there?
Well, I like the history of Calfee. The story behind it is pretty awesome. I think for a small town as Pulaski, the message of what Calfee did and the stance that they took is not out there enough. People don't understand the value of it. I think that in history, you know, I've heard so many people say, why do we have Black History Month? And so my husband said to them one day, when Black history is in the books, then you don't have to have a Black History Month. And so I want to see Black history celebrated January through December of every year, because there's a lot of products that we use on a day-to-day basis that Blacks invented them, but we don't know about it. And so I think that's a great disservice that people have done to our particular race. But then my husband is very passionate about Calfee. And so that helped me to be even more so. But I just think that in order for us to understand history and where we're going in life, we've got to put it out there. We got to understand the shoulders that we're standing on, that the work that they had to do just to get us to where we are right now. I mean, it took a lot. And I think some of the generations that are coming up now, they don't understand what it took to get us to this place. I can remember campaigning with my mother for Madison Marie, and we wanted to stop and get something to drink because we were walking door to door and leaving literature. And the gentleman in the restaurant, this is in Christiansburg. And I had to have been, I was born in 1960, so I'm thinking I'm at least 10 or 12 years old. And he said, now, I will serve you water, but you need to come to the back door to get it. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. At this day and time, why should I be experiencing that? My parents did. My mother passed when she was 97, almost 97, and my dad when he was 91. I was nowhere close to their age. They experienced all of those things, and they worked hard to make sure I didn't experience it. So why is this gentleman not moving with the program? I could never understand that. I can remember when my oldest sister got married, she wanted to have her wedding reception in a hotel, and nobody would let her rent a hotel space. She had to go to the Christiansburg Armory to have her wedding reception. And people say, you know, all of that was way back when. I was born in 1960. It's not way back when. And I know of things that have happened to our sons that should never have happened to them, period. You know, just being judged when you walk into a room. And you never know what is in a person's heart. I can say one thing, but what I'm really thinking and what's really in my heart, I don't know that, because you're not voicing that. But your actions eventually will show how you truly feel.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I know that I've had a lot of these conversations myself within my generation. You know, it wasn't really that long ago. History is still happening. We saw that with some of the events that took place this past summer, and we've seen that play out over and over and over again throughout our time. So I really appreciate you touching on that and the relevance of that, and how we can use this moment to elevate some of these voices in the community and express some of the things that you experience. And I'm so terribly sorry that you experienced that at that age. I cannot even imagine walking up at 10 years old trying to get just a glass of water and being told that I need to go to the back of the building. So, well, that brings me into my next question, Calfee related. So how was the community at that time? So it seems like a lot of the interviews that we've conducted over the past year, some of the oral history interviews, it seems like the Calfee, Christiansburg Institute, a lot of the other organizations within the community really had to stay together to fight and to experience prejudice together. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I think it's important that the community is involved, but the angle I know that my husband and I come from, in order to educate people and to move forward, we have to do it together as a community. It's not a Black thing, it's not a Caucasian thing, it's a community thing. And until we understand how valuable and how much we can move forward working together, we can get there much faster. But I think we do a great disservice is if we don't allow ourselves to learn, first of all, other people. I think that's one reason why people don't try to learn other nationalities and customs that they may have. It's because of fear. But you can, whatever you don't know, then yes, you can fear that. But once you begin to know, then I can become acquainted with that and allow that to be part of my life. We've got to stop continuing to segregate ourselves so that we can educate people. And so many times I see that because we are constantly saying, we have one of the most diverse congregations in our area, without a doubt. And it takes work to blend all of those nationalities together. And it's not always an easy task, but it's a necessary task. And only those who have great callings have to make great decisions. And then we also know that we have a God that backs us tremendously. And so our heart always is to move forward as a community. I think that if you don't watch out, the torch will be dropped because we all are experiencing a better life. But how much better is it if we don't continue to move forward? If we just stop and say, this is enough, then no, it really is not enough. We got to keep working together as a community. Just like CALFE has a function, Christiansburg Institute had a function, but they all at one point had to come together because they needed each other. And I think in our communities, that's what we got to understand, is that we all need each other. Nobody can do anything alone.
So true, so true, so important. So that leads me into my next question. What are your future hopes for the CCCC as we move forward together as a community? What would you like to see this building become?
I'm really hoping that it will be an icon for our area. I'm hoping that, first of all, it will put Pulaski on the map, because it would help society understand that great things can come out of small communities. You don't have to come from the largest place, the largest city. You don't have to have that. Great things can come out of small places. And when you realize that CALFE had a part to play in Brown versus the Board of Education, that it brought Thurgood Marshall to our area. I mean, come on, that's huge. But how many people really know that? How many people really know what CALFE actually stood for? And I can remember my husband talking about CALFE and the teachers there. They taught people not only education, but how to live in life. I think some of the basic things that we were taught when we were growing up have been tossed to the side, and just basic communication skills in order to be able to talk to somebody are kind of lacking right now. And I think CALFE will be able to bring that about in a greater way, because we're going to be able to have classes for young people. We'll be able to have the daycare center that's going to be there. Parents can rest in the fact that their child is in a safe place, in a quality facility, dedicated to making for sure that your child is not just babysat, but it is an early education possibility where you can learn. We're not just going to have you come in, drop your child off, and that's it. We want to make for sure that your child is learning. And so I think that's really an awesome thing to be able to do. The museum, a lot of people don't understand the history. And so in order to understand that, I believe the museum has a great part in what we're doing. And it's going to help people to show what actually came out of our area. The people that have gone on and have lived good lives and contributed greatly to our society. I mean, they're all over. And so I'm sure that CALFE will be able to do that. The classrooms being named after different teachers is going to be able to honor those teachers. Their families will be honored, which is an awesome thing. Our community kitchen, beans and rice, our daily bread, people who are out here feeding people every day. We sit down and we decide on what we're going to eat, and we don't think about it, and if we don't want to cook, we have the ability to go out and buy something. That's not everybody's story, and so if we can play a part in bringing people's lives to a different level, to see that they can make it, to see that they can strive to do better, then why not CALFE?
Absolutely. Why not CALFE, right?
Yes, yes. We need to make a t-shirt.
Why not CALFE? Why not CALFE? Come on, what do you guys think? Leave a comment if you're on board for why not CALFE. We can get that pushed out ASAP. All
Yes,
right.
yes, yes.
So my final question for this evening, and then I'll open it up to Miss Jennifer Henderson here for her follow-up questions, is what advice would you give up and coming young women? Because you are certainly an accomplished, educated, and articulate and independent woman. So what advice would you give to our viewers tonight?
Sometimes I'm too independent. I need to learn how to chill a little bit.
Oh no, I hope Pastor Ass isn't watching.
First of all, you got to become one with yourself. You must know who you are. And when you do, then you won't fall for anything that is less than what you should have. You know, God has a great desire for our lives, and none of us are supposed to live less than what he intended for us to live. And until you understand who you are, what you want to do in life, it's hard for you to go down the right path. Most of the time, that's why we see people return to things that they used to do, because they haven't developed a plan for their future. And you need to have a plan for your future. You need to make for sure that you write down some daily goals and try to achieve them. Treat your family well. And basically, whatever you have a heart for, go hard after it. You know, you may not always know how you're going to do it, but you must start moving in that particular direction. You have to do that and understand. You know, I tell people now, your voice is so important. And people say, well, it's just one voice, but one voice can make a difference. You know, I've been telling people, I say, you know, you don't like what's going on. Your House of Representatives, your senators, anytime you call their office, they have to log in your phone call. So that means that my voice is being heard where I'm calling to, and they have to at least acknowledge that I said something. You know, when you become a woman, you have a family, you have children, desire to teach them so that they can live life on their own and not be dependent on somebody else. You know, we're this day and time, you know, it's about, I can get anything I want to get and I may not have to work for it, but what price are you paying for that? So teach your family, teach your children how to, and help them to understand that the family is one of the most valuable things, because when they go out into the world, they're going to be changing the world. Help a woman to understand that her voice is very valuable, and she needs to make for sure that when she uses her voice, that is used in a way that will advance her life and her family's life. You know, when we were growing up, I never realized how much my mother did to help us to see how things should be in life. And so she used to always tell us, never do anything for the public that you won't do for your family. She said, because your family always sees the good, bad, and the ugly. You know, when I was growing up, we never had paper napkins in our house. We always had cloth napkins. It was nothing for us to go in the dining room and eat on the china dishes. You know, and I think about that, but what she was instilling in us was the fact that you are just as important as anybody else, if not more important. And she made for sure that we knew that. I have a picture where our youngest son is celebrating a birthday, and he has Cheetos in a glass crystal bowl. And I said, only your grandmother would do that. But she wanted us to know, use your voice, make for sure in life that you're showing everybody how great they are around about you, but mainly yourself. Look in the mirror and find out who you are and where you're headed.
Who you are and where you're headed. I like it. I said final question, but that I just was reminded. Your mother, there was a book published about her, was there not?
It's in the process of being published.
Okay.
We don't have the final name on it yet, but from time to time, they've done an oral history on her, and they will do it at the Christiansburg Library. She won an award that was called Strong Men and Strong Women. And actually, Oprah Winfrey and President Obama have received the same award. The night my mother got it, she was one of 10. And like they had astronauts, they had doctors, they just had people who had either had college degrees, doctorates, or whatever, lots of experience. My mother had a high school diploma. But when the evening was over, she was the only one that received a standing ovation. She took full advantage. Matter of fact, you can find that on my timeline on Facebook. She took full advantage of the platform that she was on. And I believe there were some lives that were changed just simply because of the simple things that she said about life. You know, the other people, they got up there, they did their thing, they said a little short speech, and it was over and done with. But when my mom finished, I'm telling you, it was amazing how they responded to what she had to say. And so when she first received that award, it actually, they did what they call a mobile exhibit. So it went to different libraries all over the state of Virginia. So that was really neat. And she also won a $5,000 scholarship, of which she had to do something with it in the educational field. So what she decided to do was to start an endowment for at New River Community College for a scholarship. So what she ended up doing was, once she started that, and then as people gave towards it, it had to get to at least 25,000 before it was endowed. She met the president of New River Community College. He wanted to meet her. He'd always heard about her. And so after he met her, he came to her home and he said, you know, after meeting you today, he said, I'm going to do something that I've never done in my life. I'm going to talk to my wife first, and then I'm going to get back with you, which was a wise thing. Men, talk to your wife first. That's wise. And so he called my mother back and he said, I'm doing a dollar for dollar match to start another scholarship in your husband's name. And I'm going to do it I'm going to match it up to $25,000. So now there's a scholarship in my dad and my mother's name in New River Community College. And they have given away 8 full 2-year scholarships to attend New River Community College. And I think about how we think about living in the moment, but I'm telling you, however you live in the moment can determine your legacy. And my parents, even though they're no longer here, their legacy is still speaking. So when I do things, I want to make for sure that I'm leaving a mark, not just any old kind of a mark, but something that people can look back and say, hey, you know what, this is what she did and I can attain this. Legacy can be everything to a family.
Absolutely. And I certainly see her legacy reflected in you, and I certainly hear it in you. Now, Ms. Henderson, those were all of my questions for the evening. Did you have any follow-up questions for our guest?
Speaking of legacy and it being Women's History Month, I am not familiar with the name, but Kiana has it. We were doing research on your mom, and we've learned that she got women in the community registered to vote. I was wondering if you could speak on that, especially with the voter suppression that we still have going on.
When she understood that there was a great need for people to be able to vote, there again, that's your voice speaking. When you get out and vote, you know, don't talk to people who don't want to do anything or who don't vote. You're not doing anything to change our lives, but that is an avenue that gave women the ability to speak. There's a painting that I really would like to get. I've looked for it. I have not been able to find it, but I'm hoping I will. It's when apartheid had ended in Africa, and there was a lady who had no legs, but the picture showed 2 women on either side of her picking her up, and it looked like they were in a running motion. They understood that if I can get her to vote, that's one more vote for what we're believing for. And she was very big in that. She was very big in people speaking up, saying something, doing something. Just don't come in and just be content with how things are. But she did a lot with voters registration, League of Women Voters. She was honored by them many, many times. I can remember because of that, we were out politicking all the time when I was growing up.
I'm glad you said the name. The name for our viewers again was the award was from the Montgomery County League of Women. So definitely do some light reading. All right. Well, I believe that concludes our interview session that we have scheduled today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you again, Ms. Hash, for joining us. Please stay tuned for our next surprise interview for next week.